Welcome back to Identity Stack. This is Dr. Sarah Austin, technical writer at KeyData Cyber. This time, I'm thrilled to be joined by Shurouq Hijazi, managing director here at KeyData Cyber, to talk about identity security for K-12 education. Thank you so much for joining me, Shurouq. So, to get us started, let's paint a picture of the current landscape. From your experience, what are the most significant identity security challenges that K-12 organizations are currently grappling with? What are some common vulnerabilities or security gaps they face?
Hi, Sarah, and thank you so much for having me today. I would say in this day and age, K-12 schools have to manage more digital tools than ever, from learning platforms to parent engagement portals. They have to do all of that with limited resources and limited budget. The typical frame we see in K-12 is having IT being the overall function, and security is only one part of that. And then IAM is even a smaller part within the security function itself. So that presents a lot of pressure to deliver simple IAM solutions that are low budget and low code. And that's a challenge in and of itself, but there are also broader challenges that we see across the sector. And I'm going to highlight here just a few, but we can spend a whole day just talking about all the challenges in education. One of the common themes we see is handling of multiple personas. So schools are unique from the traditional organizations we typically work with in that there are a lot more identity types to deal with. Like you could have students, teachers, staff, volunteers, parents, guardians, alums, and one person can take on multiple of these identities at the same time. Like you could be a staff and a volunteer, or a parent who's also an alumna. So this many-to-one relationship is often complex and challenging to understand, but with the help of the right IAM tools, you can simplify that and ensure that each person has the right access regardless of that role that they play. The second one I would highlight is regulatory compliance, especially with schools falling within public sector. Typically, there are lots of regulations and caveats like FERPA or HIPAA as you deal with sensitive personal data with student grades, health information, family details. If we don't protect access to that data, we risk hefty compliance violations and security breaches that can cost millions of dollars for these schools. Now, IGA technologies can play a big role in helping with not just compliance, but also enablement, like having tools that enable accessibility requirements or present multiple language. So I wouldn't look at them as just a checkbox for compliance, but they could also be business enablers and kill two birds with one stone. And then the last one I want to highlight is the identity volume peaks and valleys. I think schools are unique in that the number or volume of identities fluctuate a lot based on the academic calendar. So you may have a surge of new users at the start of a semester, but then go through a big decline during summer breaks. And that seasonal churn can be a challenge in managing access effectively. And that's where we typically recommend elastic IAM architectures and IAM solutions that can scale with these changing demands.
Wow, so K-12 environments are much more complex than I thought. So building on that understanding, what are the essential features and functionalities that a K-12 focused identity security platform should offer?
Well, when we talk about an identity security platform, it's a big umbrella term. There are various domains that can fall within that. So if we were to start with identity governance and administration, or IGA platforms, I think the key functionality would be automating the identity lifecycle. So that's the joiner, mover, leaver. Basically, when you have users you're trying to onboard or move from one department to another, or offboard and terminate. So ensuring that that's implemented in the most simple and streamlined fashion is key to having not just a good security function, but also a great end user experience. And in K-12, I think end user experience must stay front and center. There are other functionalities like role-based access control or access reviews. Artificial intelligence is a hot topic, and how that plays a role in defining access requirements. But honestly, I think for K-12 organizations, focusing on just getting the core IGA capabilities done and getting a good handle on automating the identity lifecycle is what will make the most difference and get you more bang for your buck. Then when we talk about access management platforms, this is where we cover things like authentication and authorization capabilities. So single sign-on or SSO and multi-factor authentication, MFA, would be the two most critical functionalities that today everyone honestly just expects to be part of the environment. No one wants to go in and access multiple applications with multiple accounts. The expectation is that you have a single account or a single login, and that security awareness we have today makes it almost non-negotiable. Students are pretty tech savvy in this day and age, so they expect to see MFA across all the applications that they access. The only caveat is that we have to make it user-friendly. Like, you can't do something as complicated as rolling out YubiKeys. Students and parents would typically expect something a bit simpler, like a text message, which may not be the most secure option, but you have to weigh in usability versus security sometimes. And that's where you try to steer towards happy medium solutions like authenticator apps. But those are, I would say, the key capabilities within access management and the ones I mentioned earlier on the identity governance. And those two would roll up to the bigger umbrella of identity security platform.
That's a really important point you make about the need to balance robust security with the practicalities of managing user expectations and needs. How can a modern platform help schools gain better visibility and control over who has access to what resources?
That's a great question, Sarah. Modern IGA platforms centralize identity management. What that means is that school leaders can quickly see who has access to each system, when their access was granted, what level of permissions they have in each system, and that gives you a pretty good idea of how to deal with multi-personas that we talked about earlier. So that's when someone can be both a parent and a staff, or a student and a volunteer. Having different personas requires sometimes giving a person different accounts to access different resources based on these different roles. So imagine having one place where you can see that Sarah's identity has all these accounts assigned to her, and then be able to dig into what each account has access to, and have a mapping of the applications and resources that you may access as a staff versus as a parent or an alum, or all three combined. The central visibility allows us to do a lot of cool stuff with reporting, like detecting anomalies if students somehow access admin systems, or confirming compliance with privacy regulations. I think that regulatory landscape point is really important to focus on, because there are a lot of nuances on what you can and cannot have visible publicly for PII. And having IAM solutions that tell you who has access to these sensitive access points is going to be key to mapping these privacy requirements. And then another cool example of what you could do with this central visibility is being able to quickly remove access for users who leave or changing roles. So instead of managing 20 different systems manually, you could just manage them in one console within the IAM solution. So that's a huge boost if you think about it, in control and in accountability.
Centralized visibility sounds incredible for simplifying a complex environment, but budget is always a significant consideration, particularly for K-12 education. How can a modern identity security platform offer enterprise-grade security without the traditional price tag? What are the cost efficiencies?
Great question, Sarah, and a big concern for schools specifically. Now, the good news is modern platforms are built in the cloud, which means you don't have to put in a heavy investment on on-prem servers or maintenance that we traditionally had to do. The other part to look for is how pricing can scale with education or K-12 use cases. So typically you want to look for IAM solutions that scale based on type of users. So light users like parents and alumni should not be treated the same as staff and teachers or students who may need access to a lot more resources. That way, smaller districts can pay for what they use on pay-as-you-go basis, and they can pay based on the scale or the types of users that they have. Another great way to save on cost is bundling capabilities. So we talked earlier about how identities is a large umbrella, and it can include various domains like IGA or identity governance and administration, like lifecycle management or role-based access control, but also access management like SSO and MFA. So having an IAM solution that can bundle different capabilities can reduce the need to buy multiple separate technologies. Lastly, I would say automation. The whole point of identity and access management is to reduce manual workloads on staff, meaning they can focus on broader technology goals instead of the mundane user account maintenance. If we do a proper automation job, I would say you get the level of protection similar to what a Fortune 500 company would have without the need to hire a large team of security specialists to run it.
That's a really compelling argument for the value and benefit of a modern security solution. So what advice would you give to K-12 leaders who are just beginning to think about modernizing their identity and access management?
I would say start simple, but start now. First, I would map how you currently onboard and offboard your users and how you're granting them access. And I'm not talking like technical mapping here. I'm just talking about the basic business understanding of the processes and the school's business requirements. Second, I would prioritize the basics: strong authentication, clear onboarding, offboarding, and visibility into access rights. Third, I would choose a solution that fits your size today, but can grow with you tomorrow. And you don't have to solve everything at once, but the sooner you move away from manual processes and weak passwords, the sooner you're protecting students, staff, and your district's reputation.
That's fantastic practical advice for K-12 leaders. Shurouq, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and insights with us today. It's been incredibly valuable. And to our listeners, if you're a K-12 leader grappling with identity security challenges, be sure to visit us at KeyDataCyber.com, where you can schedule a complimentary workshop to assess your K-12 security architecture and receive a roadmap to a scalable, cost-effective IAM right-sized for your organization.